Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Perdue, and I am the Infrastructure Nerd, and today I am also the President of Attorney Computer Systems, and so I am here to talk about Tabs3 Connect. Tabs3 Connect is part of the recently released 16.2 version of Tabs3 and Practice Master from Software Technology, and we are going to take a quick run-through of how it works, what it can show you, what it can't, and what the requirements are, how the security works, and we're going to even take a peek at just how real-time it is. But before we get started, I do want to show you this because you have something that looks a little bit like this over on the right-hand side of your screen. If it is showing this big box, then you may want to click this little icon that looks like arrows pointing to the right, because that little icon will cause this big box to slide out of the way, possibly uncovering part of my screen. If you do that, then when you slide it over to the right, this little icon with the arrows pointing to the right will all of a sudden become an icon with arrows pointing to the left, meaning that if you click it again, it will slide this big box back into view, meaning that you can then type a question here where our lovely moderator, Leanne, will field your questions, make sure that I get them answered, and help us to stay on track. If you're feeling a little bold today and you want to actually ask your question, you can click this icon right here, and that will allow you to raise your hand. Leanne will also be moderating that part of it. She will see you've raised your hand. She will interrupt me so that we can unmute you and you can ask your question. Now, if you joined by simply listening to your computer as opposed to dialing into the telephone line, and you don't have a microphone in your computer, then you won't be able to raise your hand. Well, you'll be able to raise your hand, but you won't be able to talk. So keep that in mind. And without any further ado, let us look at Tabs3 Connect. Now I'm going to go one step back, and I'm going to open up Google Chrome, and I'm going to go to the website www.tabs3connect.com, and that takes me to this sign-in screen. Now, a little bit about this security. People are worried about the cloud, and they're worried about their confidential contact and client-related information and calendar-related information being out in the cloud. It is not. Signing into Tabs3 Connect will, quote-unquote, authenticate you. It will then serve as a switchboard, if you will. Think of it like an old-fashioned switchboard with those cords you pull out and plug one into another, and you can get the picture. It will serve as a switchboard for your requests for information, which will then get routed directly back to your server in your office. Your server will then create the HTML pages, that's nerd talk, but that's web pages, that are needed to fulfill your request for information. Your server will send those pages back to you through this Tabs3 Connect switchboard. So the only time information is in the cloud is when it's on its way back to you. And that is in a 128-bit encrypted mode, which is the same level of security that that information passes through when you're doing online banking or when banks are transferring information between their branches and their main computers. So no information stays in the cloud. No information stays on your iPad or your Android phone or your iPhone or whatever it is that you're looking at Tabs3 Connect on. The only time that it's there is when it's on your screen. As soon as you close your browser, it is gone and nobody can get to it. So with that said, I'm going to sign in. And this is Tabs3 Connect. Now, in Tabs3 Connect, we have 6 main functions that we can perform, and they are designed to mimic the functionality that you have within Practice Master. And then we also have the ability to look at e-notes and our alarms. Now, I don't have any alarms that are going right now, so if I click this, it'll say no records. I can always get back to my main screen in Tabs3 Connect by clicking this icon here. When I'm in a sub-screen, I can also go directly to one of the other 6 functions by clicking one of the icons that represents it. Or if I forget what those icons mean, I can go back here where you've got the words to also indicate what the icons represent. Now, This is the matter manager. I'm going to go in and pull up Purdue Law Offices. And to do that, I'm going to search for Purdue. And when I do that, it finds my test record and Purdue Law Offices. Now, that's a little different. Those of you who have worked with PracticeMaster or have worked with Tabs3 know that you could search for Purdue if Purdue was the name search, or you could put in 103.36.00. Now, what that means is that those are the only ways in the desktop version you can get to Purdue Law Offices. But I could type, let's say we wanted to get to Riley, Bennett, and Egloff. I could type Egloff. So that's different, and that's the case when you're going to the client information or going to the matter manager like you are here, or when you're going to enter fees. So from a lawyer's perspective, this is a much friendlier way of searching for a particular matter to get your time into the system. Now I'm going to go back to Purdue, and I'm going to pull up Purdue Law Offices. Now when we do, you'll notice that this is, oh, hold on a second, I seem to have a note. Your wife called. Tell her never to call me here again. That was an e-note from Leanne, just like you'd have an e-note in PracticeMaster, but it's coming through to my Tabs3 Connect screen. I can now dismiss this e-note, and my icon over here will change back to a regular e-note icon without that little 1 in the red circle in the corner to indicate I have 1 pending e-note, and you can see here I have no unread records. So that's e-notes. We got a little interrupted there by my wife, but hopefully she won't call back again. These are the ones I've received, these are the ones I've sent, and these are my unread, which I have none of. So now to go back into the matter manager, and I'm back to Purdue Law, and I can see all my activity, my billing summary, my calendar, my contacts, my costs, my documents. If I scroll down here, my fees, my journal, my phone and email, and my more files, which for us is our people record, but for you might be something like litigation information or plaintiffs or defendants or however you've got PracticeMaster set up. All activity is going to show me my billing entries plus all the things you'd see in your normal desktop version of PracticeMaster's Matter Manager. My billing summary, of course, is going to show me the balance due and any WIP and when the last payment was, all that sort of stuff. This is pretty much the same as PracticeMaster on your desktop. The work description, not defined. I don't have work description for Purdue Law Offices. This would, for a typical matter in a law firm, say something like Jones versus Smith or a divorce matter or whatever the work description is for the client. Clicking that will take me to the client record where I can see some very basic information, and I can also look at all fields, which admittedly can be a little daunting because unlike the regular desktop version of PracticeMaster, you'll see that I'm just kind of getting a regurgitation, if you will, of all the fields that are in the system for Purdue Law Offices in no real apparent order. So that's one of my things that I don't particularly like, but I'm guessing that the people at STI are going to be updating Tabs3 Connect very soon, and one of the things I'm guessing they're going to do, hopefully they're listening, is to allow us to have a little more control over the screens. Now, if I click on the email address for Bill Purdue, I will start an email. And if I'm in my iPad or my iPhone or my Android phone or whatever I'm in, it will start an email in the default mail client, which of course here is Outlook. But on your iPhone would simply be the iPhone's email program. If I'm clicking here, I'm going to the client contact record for William Purdue or Bill Purdue. If I click here, it actually takes me to a map. That's where Purdue Law Offices is, right across from Walmart and Mighty Muffler in Toledo, Ohio. That's extremely helpful and useful. And for you iPhone and iPad users that are upset because they've changed from Google Maps, you'll notice that this is going to take us to Google Maps no matter what. It's not taking you to the map application. It's taking you straight to Google Maps. And if I'm on an iPhone or an Android phone or any type of phone, keep in mind this will work on any device that has an internet connection. It does not have to be an iPad. It does not have to be an Android phone or Android tablet. It does not have an app. It is running in a browser. So if I click this on a phone, it's going to dial the phone. Now here, obviously on a computer running Google Chrome, I'm not going to dial the phone. But that's very cool too. I use this quite a bit. Now that brings me to another topic I'd like to discuss very briefly. Here's what this would look like on a phone if it weren't for the fact that people at STI have taken care of that problem. Here, for instance, is the main menu. And when I shrink this down to what a phone would look like, that, of course, is not very user-friendly. However, if you're on a phone, the system will recognize that, and it will make things look like this. So you have a much less horizontally oriented view when you're looking at the Tabs3 Connect product on a phone as opposed to a tablet. Now that said, I'm going to take it back up to the full size and switch back to the full site. And here we have something that's more designed to be used on an iPad or an Android tablet or any type of internet-connected tablet. Now, clients, probably one of the least useful things about Tabs3 Connect, because quite frankly, if you're going to look for client information, you're probably not coming here to look for it. You're probably going to the Matter Manager. However, in order to get you into that client screen, they had to write all the code to show you the clients, so you can also go to clients directly by clicking on this button with just one person in it as opposed to this with just contacts. Now, while we're in contacts, you have access to all of your contacts or all of the firm contacts. Now this, in conjunction with the fact that you have access to all of the calendar items for all members of the firm in the calendar, makes it a little bit different than simply synchronizing your Practice Master to your Outlook and therefore through to your phone. This means that while you're out in the field, at court, wherever, you not only have access to the 200 or 300 contacts that you've identified as being ones you want on your phone, but you also have access to the 10,782 other contacts that aren't important enough to you to be on your phone, but that you may occasionally need. And so if I come in here and I search for Purdue, I will find, among other things, Purdue Law Offices, my wife, my brother, somebody fake that we used for training one day, my nephew, all the Purdues. Okay? Now, that said, let's look at the calendar. This is an agenda-oriented view of the calendar, which the people at STI felt, and I agree, some people would like to see on this type of a device because, especially on a phone, let me switch down. It's much easier to read than trying to cram that whole graphical view into the device. Now I'm going to switch back to the full site. I don't use that because I have an iPad, and so I look at this. And you have available to you a weekly view, a daily view. I'm getting my hair cut at 4:30. Those of you who know me, no comments please. Yes, I do still have a little bit of hair. Or a monthly view. Now one thing that I find incredibly useful about this monthly view, if you've used Practice Master and have looked at the monthly view, you'll know that when you have a day that has more than will fit in a little box, because it's something that's going to be printed on a printer, it only shows you what will fit in the box, and then when you're looking at it, you have to scroll down, and when you're printing it, you can't even see those other items. In this particular view, everything is showing. So if I have a long day with a lot of stuff going on, I will see the whole day. It will simply make my days of that week a little bit deeper, a little bit taller, if you will, so that I can fit this Monday in. So monthly, weekly, daily. We have the ability, of course, to move from week to week or month to month. You do see the whole thing. It's not like the Practice Master view where you can say, I only want to see 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. You do see the whole day. You can go back to today very quickly. And then, of course, anybody that knows me knows that I am very, very task-oriented. And so, therefore, I have all my tasks down to, let's see, is it, oh, it is the weekend when I oil my clipper, my razor, so that it stays sharp. So that'll be something that I'll be attending to tomorrow. And with Practice Master or Tabs3 Connect, I will be able to tell that I need to do that out in the living room. instead of having to come into my office simply by pulling up my iPad. So we have access to our tasks, the agenda view, and the regular calendar view. But here's a kicker. I have access to everyone. So I need to know what Mary Jo's doing today and Brandon, because I'm trying to schedule a call with a client for 2 o'clock this afternoon. And now I know that Mary Jo is not available. She's doing some document training or document conversion this afternoon at 2 o'clock from 2 to 3. Brandon won't be here to work until 3 o'clock. It looks like and I'm getting my hair cut at 4:30, so it looks like if I'm going to schedule this meeting, it's going to have to be 3 or 3:30 or 4 o'clock. I'm not going to be able to do it at 2 as I'd originally wanted. And that, to me, is huge. Now, let's say that we schedule this meeting. And I'm going to go out here and I'm going to say new. And so, yes, we want to meet. I have a code that pulls in a certain color, so I'm going to use the P code, and I'm going to say meet regarding, I don't know, T3 Connect. And it's going to be an event today. It's going to be from 2, oh, I remember I said 3 to 3:30. And they're both PM. I'm not going to turn the alarm on. But what I want to do here, I do want to put in both me, well, all three, me, Mary Jo, and Brandon. And I'm going to save this. Now, time conflict exists. I think that's when I have Brandon scheduled to be here. Brandon does all our video production, so if you've ever seen a live video from us as opposed to these computer-oriented videos, well, he does these too. He'll be the one putting this on the web this afternoon. And so now I have an appointment for this afternoon at 3 o'clock for me, Mary Jo, and Brandon. But what's incredibly cool about this is that if I go into my local version of Practice Master, and let's just pretend for a minute that I made that appointment out in the field, and now Leanne is coming into this version of Practice Master. If I go to my calendar, and let's make it a daily view just so we can see a little better. Just one day. Oops. And let's make it today. Well, that's a little embarrassing. Leanne, what did you do with my appointment? The one that I just made. Okay, this is where everybody gets to see how well Paul does in identifying what mistake he made. Is that today? Am I looking at today? October 5th. Did I make it at the right time? Haircut. Oh, you know what? I have to refresh the calendar. Hit the key, refresh the calendar. The calendar doesn't automatically refresh in Practice Master. And there we have it. Meet regarding Tabs3 Connect. And that is huge. There is no synchronizing. There's no waiting for stuff to come in. If an attorney makes an appointment for this afternoon at 2 o'clock or 3, as I just did, and now 10 seconds later Leanne gets a call from a client that wants to come in and meet this afternoon at 3 o'clock, she knows that Paul, Brandon, and Mary Jo are not available for that because Paul just made an appointment from his iPad out in the field, and that is huge. So the notes that you make, the fees that you enter, which we'll look at in just a second, the appointments, everything that you're doing on this iPad, iPhone, whatever device you're using to access Tabs3 Connect is coming straight into the real-time version of Practice Master and Tabs that's on your system. Let's take that a step further. Let's look at the last exciting part of Tabs3 Connect, which is fee entry. And before I even get to this, I'm just going to tell you this is cost entry, and I don't even know why it's here. I guess there are some attorneys that will make cost entries directly into Tabs. Usually if an attorney logs miles or an attorney has a lunch that he's going to charge to a client, because that's what it is. It's the Tabs3 part of the client lunch. They are bringing those receipts back, or the credit card statement is going straight back to accounting, and they're entering those themselves and billing the client at that time. And I suppose if you have a sole practitioner that's out in the field with Tabs3 Connect, he may be making those mileage entries. He may be making those lunch expense entries directly from Tabs3 Connect, but I don't see that happening very often. This is fee entry. And I'm going to make an entry for Purdue Law Offices for today. It assumes today. It assumes Purdue Law because that's the client that I had up, or the matter that I had up in the Matter Manager. It doesn't even ask me who the timekeeper is because Tabs3 Connect is tied to users. Users log in and then they keep track of their time. Now, if you have somebody who's entering somebody else's time, they probably aren't doing it into Tabs3 Connect. Tabs3 Connect is a work product for people who are doing work, attorneys who are out in the field. We have a place for transaction code. I'm just going to leave that at our blank one. I'm going to put in 0.25 hours. I'm going to put that I emailed reply to Bill regarding lunch meeting. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put that so that when Leanne prints bills later on, we don't have this come out by accident. And I save it. That's all there is to it. Very, very simple. You click the icon. You tell it who you're billing if it's different than who you were looking at a minute ago. You tell it how many hours and what you did, and you save it. Now if we go back to Practice Master and go back to look up Purdue Law Offices, there they are. Click on Fees. There it is. A fee in Practice Master back at the office. And of course, those of you who have Tabs3 in Practice Master, you know that that also means that that same fee is already automatically in Tabs3 right there. Very, very real-time, very streamlined. An attorney that's adding fees doesn't need to specify who he or she is. The assumption is that it's today, it's happening real time, but you can of course change the date. The assumption is that it's the client you were just looking at while you were talking to them on the phone or answering their email, and therefore all you have to do is come in here, tell it how many hours you worked and what you did. Now, a little bit of system requirement information. Tabs3 and Practice Master both have to be in place for Tabs3 Connect to be working. Let me say that again. You cannot be a firm that has just Practice Master or a firm that has just Tabs3 and utilize Tabs3 Connect. Now the good news is it's free. The flip side of that, its free proclamation, if you will, is that it is a feature, a free feature of Tabs3 and Practice Master Platinum. It is the Platinum architecture, the client-server architecture, if you will, that allows this to all happen. If it were our standard old-fashioned multi-user version of Tabs3 and Practice Master that we've had since, gosh, the 90s, I suppose, since when people needed multi-user software, since the 80s, it would not support the functionality that's necessary to make this magic happen in the background. The Platinum platform is what's necessary. So, if you do not have Practice Master and Tabs3, you cannot use Tabs3 Connect. And if you do not have the Platinum versions of those packages, you cannot use Tabs3 Connect. But if you do have the Platinum version of those two packages, you already have Tabs3 Connect. Now, I'm not going to get into here the details about how to configure it, because we covered that in our water cooler, which is our virtual user group meeting last Monday. And this is more of an overview for attorneys and people that are making a decision about whether or not to put this in place. I will simply tell you that it takes less than 5 minutes to set up Tabs3 Connect. You simply go in and tell it you're going to use it. You let it load. You identify which users are using it, give them strong passwords to protect the data, and it's there. Now, that is all I have to say. This seminar or webinar has been recorded, and so therefore if you registered, you will be sent a link to that recorded version. Leanne, do we have any questions?
No questions, Paul.
No questions. Either that means that everybody is asleep, or I did a very good job of explaining Tabs3 Connect. So we'll leave it at that. Everybody have a good rest of the day and a good weekend, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.